I'm Eric Russell. I am out and about with Steven Fales here at Richmond Triangle Players and his production of Confessions of a Mormon Boy, which is his story. He's got that great smile.
Yeah. You know, I noticed that sometimes people, it is Fales.
It is Fales, thank you.
People try to be polite and like, is it Fales? Is it Falls? Is it Phallus? No, it's Fales. So you got it.
Yeah. So this was the first part in a trilogy that you did, but this was the first show that you wrote dealing with your own story.
Yeah, I never thought it would turn into a trilogy. So this was meant to be, you know, the one show I would do, and then life continues. But yeah, I did this off Broadway, and I've been touring it all over the country and sometimes abroad. So.
And it won awards. Went to Edinburgh Festival Fringe and the West End. And
yes, it was at the Charing Cross Theatre in the West End. It was that was fantastic.
What brought you to this point that you decided, I want to tell my story? What moment did you have you went, I need to tell my story, I need...
When I was being excommunicated, I found it so fantastical. After all those years of service, all the therapy to be straight, and it's a medieval barbaric cult tactic, and I knew other people were going through this. You don't hear about it, and I thought, you know, someone really needs to write about this. Well, I thought, you know what, maybe it's up to me to write it. Also, this is my contribution to helping end spiritual abuse in our churches, mosques, and synagogues, which is still going on, you know. But it's also a Valentine to my children. Because if I were to die, I didn't know, there wasn't anyone I would trust to tell my story. I was afraid I would be erased. And so I think I felt like my responsibility as a dad to tell my story. I also happen to be an artist. So it just, life and art came together.
Your excommunication experience, it's a very unique thing, I think, from the Mormon perspective, that we still get people excommunicated. I don't hear about Catholic friends being excommunicated anymore. I don't hear about Jewish friends being excommunicated, the back's turned, as much as we do from the Mormon faith.
I think it's because it's a young religion, and has a real tight zeal. And with only 13 million members, you can really keep hands-on, and they have, you know, they keep your membership like this, the way to control you, and so you're not, you know, going to hear about this. But that's so unique. You don't hear about excommunication here in this century. So it's going on.
You reference your dad a lot in the show. In fact, I made extra notes as I was going through when the word dad and dad come up over and over and over again. And when you make that statement then that I'm a dad, and then your dad came to the performance in New York after all those things, I would just pull it all together, the dad influence.
Well, you know, the third part of the trilogy is called Prodigal Dad. And it goes further.
Okay.
You know, this story continues. I couldn't believe things that happened after Confessions. But this is about how I got over a racket about my dad. As long as I could blame my dad for everything, I could justify and rationalize. So this is a story about growing up. It's about stop blaming other people. My dad is not perfect, you know, and I don't even go to half of it. But we build it up to that point where I have to stop blaming him and take responsibility for my own life. So it's really confronting because we all have dad and mom issues. All want to blame mommy and daddy. And then when you stop, I'm hoping in a way that my own son can forgive me, and that he won't use my mistakes and my daughter, that they won't, you know, they won't use my mistakes to impede their life. I want them to be free, to be them, and not do things in retaliation.
Right.
No parent is perfect. Of course, I did escort for a while to pay child support, etc. But we didn't do it too long. And you'd be surprised how many sex work secrets are in people's stories.
I've noticed with a lot of individuals that seems to be part of people's lives. It lets you finance your child support, but it gave you a chance to live, because you make a statement about your gay adolescence. You hit New York City and you're like,
yeah,
I'm divorced, I'm single, I'm in New York, and I've got to pay rent, I've got to support my kids.
Yeah, and that's the plausible excuse. But what else? I was in a hurry. I wasn't willing to, you know, and so we could go into also addiction. And what fuels addiction. And I think there's a lot of addiction in sex work. And we can rationalize a million. Look, Fontaine had to buy medicine for her Cosette. You know, I only have 2 degrees. I only come from white privilege. My father was a doctor. I mean, there's a trillion other things I could have done, but I chose the easy way. And I almost lost my whole soul. I mean, and the drugs come in. The crystal meth came in. I'm lucky to be here.
Because that whole glam and shine wore off, going, these are just things piled up on my dress that people gave me. They're just shiny things.
Yeah. You know, I did live, and I lived large, and that's interesting, and certainly I got a show out of it, didn't I? But part of this message of this show, too, is I want other people to, what's possible for them. It is so hard to get out of that world of escorting and all the extravagant, you know, and and how can they leave? Many people have shared their sex work secrets after all this. So I don't want to make it wrong. It's the oldest profession in the world. However, there are other things that we can do and be available for besides selling our bodies. Hello?
You talked a couple times about losing your smile.
Right.
You were married, you lost your smile. You hit rock bottom and you kind of lost your smile. When did it fully come back to you that you could smile?
When we're not being fully authentic, we stop smiling. I was in a marriage, and I was gay, bi, but I was in this heterosexual marriage, and we stopped smiling because we're not being truly self-expressed. I went to the other extreme, where I was selling my smile. These clients didn't even know my real name. I couldn't even really be me. It's just like in Moulin Rouge, where Nicole Kidman, you see that she's not available to freedom, love, beauty, all those bohemian values, right? Until she gets out of it. Unfortunately, she dies before she can.
And she makes the statement in that movie, I don't believe in love.
She tries to justify that she doesn't. But that's that courtesan escort voice that says, you know, it's not possible. When you take that away, what we really want to be is available for love, for really earning money in a way that we feel good about. I mean, I get to make money now doing my art.
And make people smile through that.
That's right. And yeah.
What I liked about your story was it's probably one that is parallel to a lot of young people who have been kicked out of their homes, feel like they've lost their faith, lost their families, and they run to the big city. And they see that's quick money, the quick glamour, and their story doesn't turn out to be as happy as yours. In some cases.
You know how we say it gets better? We keep saying that. It gets better. It gets better. Well, let me tell you. Sometimes it gets worse before it gets better. But there are some things you can do that will make it really worse before it can get better. And it may never get better if you do certain things. And we can get swept away. And so I want to show the dirty underbelly of what's going on here. Also, me going into the escort world was not about so much that I needed money.
Right.
It was I was being a victim. And I was angry. And can you blame these young guys? Yeah. You know, they're so young and they run to the city. But can you blame someone who's 30 years old, who has 2 degrees, who is an Eagle Scout? So, from my point of view, I want to go, you know, I did get out because maybe I had more of a foundation to recognize that this isn't right before. And that course I took was really powerful.
I noticed when you, in your bio, you're an Eagle Scout. I'm an Eagle Scout.
Are you?
I am. I started as Cub Scouts, worked my way all the way up, did the OA, the whole 9 yards.
Did you send your Eagle Scout back?
I did not.
Neither did I.
I struggled with that because I'm thinking, I earned this. And I wasn't going to let some narrow-minded people take away something that I had worked for, because I was going to ask you, did you keep yours? I'm glad that some people did. And
I think it's powerful to stand in your truth. I'm an Eagle Scout, and you gave that Eagle Scout award to someone who was gay. So
yeah.
it's like standing in my truth. It would be like, would you give back your Medal of Honor for whatever it was in the Army? Because now you're gay and you have...
Exactly.
No, you stand in your truth. I'm a gay holder of this award. I think it's very powerful to come from that point of view. And my son's scouting.
There's so many great things in it, so hopefully they will see the light, the truth, and kind of like, look, leaders are leaders.
Mm-hmm.
That whole... In one of the interviews I came across for you, you at one point were working on getting people out of the sex worker trade, or...
Yeah, it's a tricky thing because the word I want to use is transition.
Mm-hmm.
I want to help people transition out of the sex industry. It's very hard. It destroys your work ethic. Easy money like that. You can't spend that money fast enough when you make it that way. Also, I think people want to move on to other dreams. So one of the things is, you know, if I can, you know, go from, you know, I did the show at Lincoln Center for a great big thing for the Point Foundation, raising all this money. So here I was basically escorting in penthouses that are above Lincoln Center. That's the Mormon Temple across from Lincoln Center. And if I can get through that, both of those, and then pull it together to play Lincoln Center, then what's possible for you?
You have a few other shows, because this is a trilogy. Some of the second 2 parts of this trilogy, because then I want to talk about, you've got another one-person show, The Uncommon Diva?
Conversations with Heavenly Mother, an Uncommon Diva.
Yes. Give us a little on those ones real quick.
Okay, so the Mormon Boy trilogy.
Yes.
I'm working to open off-Broadway for 2014. And part 2 in the trilogy is Missionary Position.
Okay.
It's the prequel, and it's a lot of fun. And it's all about a mission to Portugal. And we also expose the Mormon temple ceremonies. So all the Freemason rituals that, you know, only an insider will know these things. And there's some amazing fantasy sequences and I just did it in Houston. It's huge. I mean, people say, we like this better than Confessions. And I'm freer because it's more improv.
Okay.
So, then part 3 is Prodigal Dad.
Okay.
It's the most intense.
Okay.
It's drama. There's some funny things, but the writing, my writing has gotten, you know, this Confessions is a few years old. So I'm growing as a writer, and also I'm getting more and more real. So there's some other things I want to do. There's some stand-up shows, like a stand-up show called When All Else Fails. Okay. It's a little more recovery-oriented, but just more human, not so Mormon. I did a cabaret act called Mormon American Princess at Joe's Pub and around the country. Okay. Just total singing and fun, and it's just really a confection. And singing my song, my story. And Conversations with Heavenly Mother, an Uncommon Diva. You know who your Heavenly Mother is, don't you? The wife of Heavenly Father. Well, they weren't always Mormon. Okay. Yes. So Heavenly Mother comes out and tells her story throughout the eternities until she ends up as the wife of Heavenly Father, who, you know, and so it twists Mormon eternity and gives voice to the feminine divine. And she's an outrageous character. And so just her monologuing about her experiences throughout history, and it's and ultimately reconciling with Heavenly Father.
Okay.
So it's political, and it's gender, and it's religion, and
More things to look forward to.
and it's drag.
It's drag. Everybody loves
Yes,
drag. Who doesn't
yes.
love drag?
It's my drag offering.
And that's a whole other series. That's the end of the week, but that's not that tonight. From the time this show first hit the boards and it's moved forward, how has it changed? How have you changed since Confessions of a Mormon Boy started?
You know, I have had a problem with perfectionism. I am almost proud of every little mistake and flaw that happened tonight. Because every time I do the show, it's like I almost like reveal my story in a new way. Mm-hmm. Help me, you know, do it differently. Help me, you know, be fresh. And granted, this was the preview, so it's about, you know, plugging into Virginia and who are you and who am I and what's the space and getting all of that. So, you know, that was conscious. But this has been an exercise as an artist and as a former Mormon to learn to be more and more real. And when I first did it, you know, the story was told well. And now it breathes. And so as an artist, it's grown. So I've done this show maybe 700 times and so many places. And I don't get tired of it because I get to be imperfect, if that makes any sense. And I think it makes it better. So I'm learning to grow and relax. So I guess that would be my answer as the actor. I'm glad I wrote it when I did. Mm-hmm. Because I still sometimes look at it and go, wow, did I really feel that way? Oh my goodness, this detail about I would never remember that detail if I would have written it down.
You have formed a solo artist group
on Facebook.
On Facebook,
right?
Talk about that a little bit.
It's called the Solo Performance Alliance, and we have over 100, maybe 114 now. Okay. All kinds of solo performers, specializing in actor, writer, producers. Okay. People who are producing their own, and that's a lot. My success has been like, okay, well, let's find the money. You can't just sit around waiting for them to come. So I call us soloistas. Okay. I like that. Fellow soloistas. And it's a place to compare notes, to share information, maybe share leads into where you can perform. And I think it will grow. I love solo performance. I've done workshops called Flying Solo, how to create and produce your own solo work, or any work, or artist as producer. Today, you have to produce what you create. That's the way it is. I think even the big stars do that. If they want to perform on Broadway, it's their idea. They pull the producers, and behind the scenes, it's probably even their own money at stake, right? Yeah. Even in film. So it's the way it has to be done today. So it's a chance for solo performing artists to cross-pollinate. Okay. For this production of Confessions of a Mormon Boy, what's the one thing you want this Virginia audience to take away from your show? I want them to have fun. Okay. And I want them to laugh, and it's entertaining. But you know what I really think? I want them to leave. People have different experiences with this. And I think they should be prepared for something that's far different than what the poster says. So when they leave, I hope they really find the character who's not, you know, you got the two different guys. There's someone in the middle of that And I want them to leave finding that in themselves. Does that make sense? Without seeing the show? I mean, I could say leave with transformation.
Right.
I could say leave and go call your dad. I could say, you know, love your kids. I could say all these things. I could say political things. I could say, but this is beyond gay. It's beyond bi. It's about I don't know. Maybe it's because I've been doing it all day long. I am lost in it all. What do you think? What did you leave with?
I took away from it someone's journey, from a young person who's been brought up in church, and here's all these things you've been told, and then you discover a lot of that's just veneer, that it's what people tell you that they want you to be, and finding who you were as an individual person. What does your faith mean to you? What did being an out gay man mean to you? What did it mean to be a dad and a member of a family? What did that experience mean to you? And then kind of reflecting back upon your own experiences, going, I've been there, or I've felt some of those same things, or had some of those conversations.
What we do as storytellers, we tell a story that's specific, hoping that it translates universally. My hope is that you identify with my story in some way. You don't have to be a Mormon. You don't have to be an escort. You don't have to be a dad, and you don't have to be a gay to identify with the feelings and the conundrums of my story. So as I tell my story, I find that people resonate and identify on so many levels. So what was the one thing that you identified with the most?
I'm going to say the Eagle Scout part, the most, as something in common, knowing what it takes to get to that moment.
So it brought up for you the pride in your Eagle Scout achievements. Okay, well, I could probe this even more. So but I'm not, because that's my job, to probe my story. But what I want people to leave with is I want them to re-examine what their own story is. Because as a storyteller, I empower you to tell your story. All we have to change the world is our story. And there are two stories to tell. Story of being a victim, poor me, or a story of transformation. This is what I overcame. That is inspiring. And that's why we come to the theater. And I hope, I guess, to answer your question, finally, I want audiences to leave inspired.
This has been absolutely wonderful.
Thank you.
If people want to contact you, follow you on Facebook, Twitter, find out more about upcoming performances, books, things like that,
Twitter,
how can they do that?
Mormon Boy, at Mormon Boy Twitter.
Okay.
You can find me on Facebook at fales.steven.
Okay.
I think that's the one it is. My website is being rebuilt, but you can contact me at Fales, F-A-L-E-S .Steven with a V, at gmail.com.
Thank you so much again.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you.
I am Eric Russell. I have been out and about with Steven Fales at Richmond Triangle Players, Acts of Faith series production of Confessions of a Mormon Boy. For tickets and information, you go to rtriangle.org. You never know. We're going to turn up next, so tune in to find out next time. See ya.
Cheers.
Thank you so much.